All right, enough with Mizzou football for today. Let's move on to the Fall Classic, as especially all three of us here are big baseball fans. Who would have thought at the start of the playoffs that we'd be sitting here talking about the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Houston Astros? I guess we all could have called the Astros, but who would have thought we would have said the Philadelphia Phillies as the NL representatives? So, guys, Philly obviously will be a huge underdog here, facing an Astros team that's now in what? This is their fourth World Series with this sort of core that they have, that they've put together over the last decade or so. And they have the one win. I put the win in quotation marks. But Houston has obviously been a dominant team now for about 10 years straight. And the Phillies, who have been now for years and years in a row, stacking payroll to try and build this roster up. Best they've done so far is a wild card appearance, but wouldn't you know that wild card appearance takes them all the way to the World Series. So let's get into this World Series match a little bit. Starts tomorrow night, Game 1 in Houston. Do the underdog Phillies have a chance to knock off the Astros, or will Houston be taking home their second title in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think they do actually have a shot to knock them off. I mean, the Phillies, now correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they only lost 2 games going into the World Series because I know they swept the Cardinals. I'm pretty sure they only lost 1 to the Braves.
Yeah, they lost 1. Oh, yeah, they've lost 2, correct.
So they've lost 2. And the Astros, obviously, we all know, they're undefeated going into the World Series, which is quite absurd to me. But there's just something about this Phillies team, man. I mean, right when they started against the Cardinals, I really thought the Cardinals were going to win, but then you saw the Cardinals didn't put anything. And Wheeler and Nola absolutely shut that team down. And those 2 guys are the 1-2 punch for the Phillies. It's the team that those 2 guys really rely on. Phillies rely on them to do good, and they're usually really good at only giving up 1 or 2 runs, like very late in the game. Then they'll get to their bullpen. And, David Robertson has really worried me, but it seems like the managers for the Phillies has really got it going because he'll take him out and then he'll put in Ranger Suarez or something like that, and he'll do he does a very good job because he knows that his bullpen is not the best, and the fact that they've made it to the World Series with that bullpen is quite amazing to me. But then no one even cares about the bullpen. It's all about the bats. Harper, Schwarber, Hoskins, they've all been electric for this team, and there's been guys out there that I wouldn't even expected to do good, and by that I mean Alec Boehm, who had an amazing wild card series, who I didn't even think was going to have, I didn't think he was going to mean anything to this Phillies team.
He was getting booed off the field back in April. Not everyone remembers that.
Yeah. Those 3 errors at shortstop.
Playing in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, what a turnaround for him.
Yeah, but I do think, and this is going to sound really weird, but I do think it's some of that Philly magic. I mean, the Eagles are undefeated. I think that definitely is playing a role for the Phillies right now. They just have a lot of good things going on in Philly right now. So I think absolutely this team has a chance to win. I just think that they have to score early and often because this Astros team obviously is going to put the ball in play, and we are aware, you just said it, Ben, Philly sometimes have some defensive miscues, and they cannot do that on the biggest stage. If they do, they're going to be in trouble. I think that they need to actually win Game 1. If they lose Game 1, I think that's going to lower their morale just a little bit because I think in every series they've played, they haven't lost in Game 1. So I do think that is definitely a big thing for them. The Astros team's very, very good, though. I mean, Yordan Alvarez, Jeremy Pena, that man came out of left field. Oh, my goodness. As a rookie, he's just been unstoppable for them, really helping them make it to the World Series here. And this Astros team, man, they're no joke. They're very good. I mean, I think Verlander's going in Game 1. I could be wrong about that, but he's been electric. Their pitching has been very, very good. I do think that this is actually going to come down to the bullpens, though, just because they're both not that good. Astros obviously are better than the Phillies, but both teams are going to score runs, and it's going to come down to those bullpens trying to win the games for them.
Yeah, I will absolutely be rooting for the Phillies here, especially
Same.
with them
All
having
Nick
Castellanos, former Cincinnati Red. Going back to the wild card round, I picked the Phillies to lose to the Cardinals. I picked the Phillies to lose the Cardinals in 2 games. Yeah. I thought their bullpen would be a much bigger problem than it has, and it really just hasn't. And part of that is because the starters have been so good, they haven't had to ask a lot of the bullpen, and the offense has been scoring a lot of runs. But that it really has not been a problem, and they've been able to play with a lead more often than not. Turns it over. You said Suarez, you mentioned him. They have Seranthony Dominguez, who has had his moments. I think Robertson even closed out 1 game. Yeah. He's been inconsistent though, but their offense is well balanced. Their lineup is better than I think some people think. They saw their record and don't realize. I mean, this lineup, there's good hitters hitting all the way down to the 6-7. When you have at the top, you have Real Muto, Castellanos, Bryce Harper. There's Gene Segura. There's other hitters that I'm forgetting there as well. I mean, with Bryce Harper there in the middle, he's been playing out of his mind the entire playoffs. That home run he hit in the Game 5 of the NLCS was just superstar stuff. That's how you write it in the movies. I say all this stuff about the Phillies, though. It's just Houston's such a tough matchup. It's an incredibly run team, and even after the losses they've had the last couple of years, and they had Springer go to the Blue Jays and then Correa go to Minnesota, they're still just as good because they're so good at replacing those type of talents in the outfield. I think with Jeremy Pena, it's a guy that you mentioned this has put the world on notice, especially in the playoffs, and is going to be potentially one of the best shortstops in the American League for years to come. And you think, wow, they had this guy waiting in the wings, and you let Correa walk. Well, it makes sense now why they did. So they're just so good at replacing talent, replenishing talent. They obviously have not lost a game, and they made the Yankees look like one of the worst teams in the American League. I mean, it didn't even look like two teams on the same playing surface to me in that series. It was a sweep in 4 games. It was really the game 4 was really the one where the Yankees offense put up a fight. The Houston pitching staff has given up more than 2 runs in a game in just 2 out of their 7 games. Technically 8 games because they played 18 innings against Seattle, but the pitching there is incredible. The depth is insane where They if you look at it with the way pitching staffs run in the playoffs, where a lot of times you'll have one of your back end starters move to the bullpen. Houston has like 2 starters in their bullpen they can throw at you who would be like the number 2 on other playoff teams. I mean, it's insane. And especially if this series goes longer, Houston's pitching depth, I think, will help them prevail over Philadelphia. I mean, they've lost pitchers too over the last couple of years. Houston knows how to develop a pitcher.
For sure. I think the biggest thing here, I think the first couple games will be tough for both teams because we've got Wheeler and Nola. But after that, the Phillies rotation is really worrying to me. And I think if the Phillies can win the first couple games, then they stand a chance. But if they drop 1 or even 2 of the first couple games, it is over.
Yeah, no, if you look at it, because 3 of the last 4 World Series have been an NL East team versus the Astros. The pitching-wise, I feel like this is very similar to the Nationals series that the Nationals won. And if you remember, Houston was the higher seed. The home team lost every game in that series. Nationals took the first 2 in Houston. Then the Astros won the next 3 in Washington. Then Nationals came back, took the last 2. I think this could be similar because those 2 in Houston will be Wheeler and Noah, and I could certainly see the Phillies stealing those. But then when you get to the weaker part of the rotation, a part that is still strong for Houston, I could see Houston coming back and stealing a bunch of games in Philadelphia. Then maybe you return and give Philly a chance late in the series when it's Noah and Wheeler's turning in. So I totally think this could play out very similar just because of the way the rotation was. I mean, with Washington, they did the exact same thing. It was Scherzer and Strasburg when Strasburg was good early in the series. Then the rotation kind of faltered there in the middle. I don't even think they started Corbin a game in the series when he was still good as well. And then back to the end of the rotation, it was Strasburg in Game 6, Scherzer in Game 7. So this could go very similar, especially when you talk about Philly really needs to steal Game 1 because as good as Justin Verlander's been, he has not been a good World Series pitcher, and he's starting Game 1. So Phillies need to jump on him early, and I think that's the big key. If this thing... Philly needs to steal 1 at the absolute minimum, and they've been so good at home. I don't think that either of the playoff losses came at home. I don't think... Yeah, no, the Phillies have not lost a playoff game at home this playoff. So, although they've been good there, they have to leave Houston at the very least with 1 win. I don't have confidence that they could go back home and climb out of that 2-0 deficit. They'll be on the opposite end of the pitching. So, this needs to play out for them. They need to take the Nationals' blueprint here and jump on the Astros early. And even if that happens, this series, I can see the series going 2 ways. Houston rolls and their pitching is fantastic, and they win in 4-5. Or if Philly wins it, I think it would have to go like 6 to 7 games. I don't see a Philly sweep or gentleman sweep in this series. And let me know if you guys think any different there.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Adam. Hang on, let me just give this nugget out. So obviously, it comes down to what team is going to obviously score more. And I do think that although Astros have the pitching, Phillies just have the bats. And I don't think it matters if the Phillies go down because they have this mentality. It's like the 2011 Cardinals. They just won't go away. The Phillies just keep finding ways to get people on, and they're just very good. But obviously, you talk about the Cardinals, 93 wins. Goodbye. The Braves, 101 wins. Goodbye. The Dodgers, 111. Goodbye. The Yankees, 99. Goodbye. And then Houston, 106. Is this the series where we say goodbye to them? Because all these other teams, they had so many wins in the regular season, and then they just faltered in the playoffs. So is this the series where we're going to see the Astros finally falter? And obviously, unfortunate for them, it would be the biggest stage because you get this far and you don't have any losses under your belt. I think I would have liked to see them take a couple of losses, because now if you lose in the World Series, then that does something to your morale, because now everyone in America, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I think a decent amount of people in America are liking to see if this team can go undefeated. It'd be the first time since, like, I want to say like 1997 or something like that since that happened. So, I mean, it would be quite something to see the Astros go the whole entire postseason undefeated. But I think it does something to you when you don't have a single loss, and that first loss potentially could come in the World Series.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been talking about the strength of these two teams, which is very legitimate, but we got to remember we're not playing 162 here. We're playing 7 games. A whole lot can happen in 7 games that does not happen in 162. You know, I just, as Trevor Plouffe said on the Talkin' Baseball podcast, I love listening to that. He said the Phillies right now are a buzzsaw. He said they just demolish everyone in their path. They may not be the best team on paper. They're definitely not better than the Astros on paper, but paper doesn't matter. They're playing on dirt and grass.
Well, yeah, they also weren't better than the Cardinals or the Braves or the Padres on paper.
Yeah, for sure.
And
They're a buzzsaw.
Absolutely, and I think the Phillies, you could certainly say at this point, will have the better offense in this series. Would not shock me if there's a couple times where the Phillies put up a crooked number in a game. I don't know. I'd love them to prove me wrong, because they do keep winning close against. Yeah, they do. In every series they played so far. I just don't know how that'll fare against Houston. But I'd love to be proven wrong. Like I said, I'm rooting for the Phillies. So let's get here. 7 games to decide who's going to win the first 4 and take this World Series. Who is your guys' World Series winner, and in how many games?
Yeah, so obviously, as much as I want to pick the Phillies, the pitching just worries me so much for them. Like you guys said, after Nola and Wheeler, it's kind of a toss-up. It hasn't been that good. The bullpen hasn't been that good. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to pick the Astros. And the reason I am is just because I think that the Astros are going to find a way to win against Nola or Wheeler in the first or second game. And I really think that's going to pay dividends, because then, like you said, they go back to Philly for 3 games, and that could potentially win the series for them there if they sweep in Philadelphia. So I'm going to go Astros in 6.
I'm going to go Astros in 7 for the same exact reasons as you. You know, this team, until further notice, this team we should be treating like the New York Yankees as of the last couple decades. This is a team that has taken over that role of the well-run organization who has depth coming up at all times. They have the star power. They go out and get players. They are the premier American League franchise until further notice.
Yeah, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head here. I'm going to take Houston in 6-2 as much as I don't want to. But, yeah, I'll take them to win in 6 games. I think 6 games where it's mostly close. I don't see a ton of blowouts in this game. But Houston, I don't think this is a huge factor. But I certainly think they think about it, how no one no one counts their first ring as legitimate, the one against the Dodgers.
Legitimately?
No, that's not.
That wasn't it?
Legitimizes.
I have no idea. Yeah.
No, I know legitimately. No one legitimately takes that ring seriously. That's not what I was trying to say. But no one counts that ring seriously against the Dodgers, the one they won in 2017. So I think there's maybe at least a little thought there for them to take this ring and put that all to bed. Because then I really think if all these years later, after all that scandals behind them, if they take a World Series here and win their second, I think you'd really have to kind of consider them like a really talented team. They already are a really talented team, but it's certainly would etch their name, and it'll be history a lot more. So I'm going to take Houston in 6 here, and yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, I'm just hoping for at the very least a good series, as I usually do here in the World Series. So we'll see. That kicks off tomorrow night.